The Beguileon Teaching, Chapter 1, Unseen Fabric Torn, Part 1.
There I was, anxiously sitting on a dusty wooden bench next to Mr. Miller's old farmhouse. It wasn't too far from my uncle's cabin, but much closer to the main road. I was waiting for a few friends to come and pick me up for Wendy's Sweet 16 party, when out of nowhere, I heard someone laughing hysterically. The voice sounded horrendous, like something from some type of zombie apocalypse movie. I thought for a second that one of the guys might be trying to prank me, but as I focused in more on the laughter, I realized that it sounded way too deep and raspy to belong to anyone my age. The texture of the laugh resembled the little girl who got possessed in that one film. You remember the part when she was in the bed mocking the priest? That's exactly what it reminded me of. It was so loud and demonic that I began to slowly grip my chest as I listened. I could feel my face becoming slightly disfigured every time the laughter bubbled its way through what sounded like layers and layers of thick phlegm. Then suddenly, as quickly as it started, it stopped. I stood there for a few moments looking toward the tree line, trying to make sense of what I had just heard. I looked down the road to my left to see if my friends were coming, but didn't see any sign of them. I would have tried to use my cell phone, but I knew it wouldn't get reception where I was. So I just stared down the road, thinking that I would see dust in the air from my friends' approaching car at any moment. Only I didn't see any signs of them at all, and I was starting to think that they weren't coming. My uncle's cabin was deep in the forest of eastern Oregon, and no one ever came within 10 miles of his place unless they had to. So why would anyone be this close without him knowing about it? I started to feel an eerie energy trying to overwhelm my thoughts, like something bad was about to happen. I stared at the tree line again and scanned it, thinking that I might see someone or something in it, but I didn't. After a few moments passed, I did my best to shake off whatever was compelling me to examine the trees. I looked down the road again for a sign of my friends. There it was again. The mucus-filled laughter of pure evil. The sound was unbelievably wicked. Murder of crows flew quickly and silently over the top of the trees. It was almost as disturbing as the wretched cackling. That's when I realized that my lungs were burning from a lack of oxygen. For some reason, I had inhaled as I watched the birds flying by and forgot to exhale. As I did, I couldn't help but wonder if the crows were a sign. Then, without any type of warning, the laughter got even louder. I began to feel a paralyzing terror race up my spine as I tried to imagine what could possibly be making that sound. I closed my eyes and put my hands over my ears, hoping to escape the madness that this depraved laughter was creating in me. It was like I could literally feel evil suffocating me with fear. I tried to think of something good that would take my mind off the fear that was quickly building. But all of my thoughts were on the little girl from the possession film. Imagining the deep cracks in her lips and the bloody grooves in her face made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I was beyond afraid, so afraid that I was about to run back to my uncle's cabin. Then, just as I turned to sprint across the field, the laughter stopped. By then, I could feel my body trembling, but I was still curiously drawn to the tree line and the evil that kept coming from somewhere behind it. So, I waited for a while, thinking that the laughter would pick up again, but it didn't. Everything was silent for at least a minute. For some odd reason, even after that minute, I couldn't leave. I kept standing there, waiting to see if the laughter would start again. I didn't want to miss them, but I started to think that maybe it was a Bigfoot out there, and that I could get some evidence to prove that the man of the mountains is a real thing. I checked my cell phone, and just as I thought, I wasn't getting any good reception. However, looking at my phone gave me an idea. I may not have been able to make calls with it or text anyone, but the camera on it worked fine. I took a few more seconds to think about the plan that I was brewing in my mind and couldn't resist the temptation. I had to get some video of the creature that made that sound. I knew my plan was risky, but it could be my only chance at getting famous. I crossed over the old dirt road that led to my uncle's cabin and made my way into the thick brush in front of Mr. Miller's barn. The bugs were buzzing all around me. I'm not sure why I thought it was silent before, but everything was very loud. I tried my best to step gently, but the vegetation under my feet crunched and made tons of noise no matter how softly I placed each step. After a while, I was so focused on trying to see any movement in front of me that everything became silent again. I was in some type of zone, and nothing mattered to me but looking for what made the sound. I just hoped to see the creature before the creature saw me. I walked for what seemed like just a few minutes, and then stopped and held my breath as the laughter started again. I clenched my chest and closed my eyes as tightly as I could. I didn't understand why hearing it was having that type of effect on me, but it was crippling. I knew I was getting closer to it, and that was causing me to rethink the whole getting famous thing. I had to decide what I wanted to do in that moment while I could still hear the laughter. Was I willing to risk my life to be famous? Or was I going to turn back and meet up with my friends? I decided that real fame was worth it, even if I would be afraid the whole time that I was taking those risks. I could feel my heart beating against my chest. With each step, it seemed like it grew louder and louder as the air filled with an ominous energy. I started to reach for my phone as I crept closer to the source. I encouraged myself to remain calm. When I finally got my phone, I could feel that my hands were shaking bad. So bad that I almost dropped the phone as I started the video. I fumbled with it for a few seconds and then raised it up to capture whatever was out there. That's when I started to make out a cabin just beyond the trees. I could tell that something or someone was on the porch, but I couldn't make out what or who it was. As I pressed record on my phone and tried to zoom in on the porch, I heard a loud gust of wind blow through the trees. I could also hear monstrous laughter moving in the same direction of the gust and becoming more and more faint until it couldn't be heard at all. At that point, I knew the creature had left the area. I was not only somewhat disappointed, but also relieved. Relieved because I felt much safer than I did before, and disappointed because my chance to be famous was gone. Or was it? Something or someone was still on the porch. If it was a person, they would have heard the sound too. They might have even saw the creature that made it. Maybe if I talked with them, I could still get a great story to tell. I inched my way closer to the cabin and did my best not to make a sound. That's when I noticed the silence again. Only this time it was absolute silence. I couldn't hear anything. Not the wind, not any animals, nothing. I checked my phone to make sure it was still in video mode and continued to walk slowly toward the cabin. As I got closer, I could see that it was a man sitting in a rocking chair on the porch.